What the heck, man? Why are you cutting down this tree?
Leave me alone, kid. Just go home.
What you're doing causes massive impacts on the environment.
Hey, are you the Lorax?
No, I'm not the Lorax, but I am a representative of the trees and the animals that live in the forests. Did you know that forests cover 30% of the world's landmass? And not only that, but deforestation and the chopping that you're doing is causing huge impacts to the environment. Man, we got a lot to talk about. Animal biodiversity. Everyone loves animals, right? Well, did you know that 80% of all land animals on Earth live in forests? Well, when we cut down forests, those animal species and populations decrease exponentially. But, actually, flying animals such as birds like myself, and yeah, I can fly. I'm a special kind of chicken. They're affected too. Let me give you a little example. I spoke to one of the department members of Michigan Forestry. His name is Mike Hanley, and he told me about the curtain warbler. Now, the curtain warbler like to nest and reproduce in jack pine trees. So pretend that this small plant right here is a jack pine. I come flying in to nest and to make my home in the small jack pine trees. But the problem is that through forestry, all of those trees cut down. And that means that those populations of birds can't repopulate. Of course, there are other animals all across the world that are being affected, like the Sumatran rhino in Indonesia. But here's an example of one in Michigan. And we really need to start working on keeping our trees so animals can keep their lives. I love nature. And trees like this are starting to get even harder to come by. The tree populations are decreasing due to agriculture needs and forestry needs. Now, 24% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture and forestry needs. So when trees like this right here are being chopped down, all of the CO2 that's stored inside them is released back up into the atmosphere. I wish all lumberjacks felt that scared after hearing that fact, but unfortunately, trees like this are continuously being cut down as we speak. Another problem is trees like this help absorb greenhouse gas emissions that are either produced by us or produced naturally. And so when we cut down the trees and lower the population even further, those greenhouse gases and that percentage increase exponentially. Now, lumberjacks and logging companies are doing it for us, right? We need fruits and vegetables. That's why we make the space for agriculture. The problem is that trees like this and the air that we breathe, the problems from making that space is just going to cause a huge different problem down the road. Who doesn't like a good campfire? Even I like a good campfire. But what a lot of people don't realize is that forest fires and wildfires are caused naturally and man-made. And they're a form of deforestation, which is why I'm talking about them now. Let's start with why they're a bad thing. Well, animals live in the forest. They've got their habitats, their homes in the trees, on the ground. And when a forest fire takes over, it demolishes everything, either killing the animals and lowering their species population, or forcing them to move into another forest nearby, which can drastically decrease the animal biodiversity there because of the imbalance in the food chain. But, as bad as that is, forest fires are a key part of the environment. Some trees have pine cones on them that release saplings that land on the ground to regrow new trees. And before now, when trees weren't as evolved as they were, what would happen is the saplings wouldn't get enough sun because their predecessor trees blocked the sunlight from them. So these trees evolved. They have special, harder acorns on them that are immune to not only fire, but they're immune to water, rain, and once they fall on the ground, they can last a while too. So what happens is when a forest fire comes on through, those big trees that are blocking the saplings get torn and demolished down. The soil gets enriched with more carbon from the trees and the ashes being infused into the ground. And the special part about those pine cones I mentioned is that at a certain temperature, they open and release the saplings. So what this means is that once the forest fire rolls through, those pine cones open, the saplings land on the ground, and now because of the open sky and sunlight that they have from the big trees being burnt down, they are free to grow and make a new forest.
Hope everyone's enjoying the video so far. Please mind the chainsaws in the next scene. Thank you.
I've been looking over my notes and talking to Mike Hanley some more, and we've been trying to come up with solutions to deal with deforestation. And as awesome as it would be to take acorns and seeds, plant them in the ground, grow new trees. It just takes too long. And deforestation is a problem we've got to deal with right now. So, my family told me that the forestry department, they work with companies that deal with trees and logging and agriculture, private or government associated ones, and they give them all the information they need to know to handle such problems. One of them being invasive species, such as the Asian beetle that love maple trees, probably because of the maple syrup. But all of those companies are just a start. What can I do? What can we do to help? Well, for one, know your fire safety rules. Keep a green lawn. Some examples of those are try to use smaller amounts of pesticides, try to grow plants that help the wilderness instead of just looking nice, and know that when you go out into the woods and you have a cigarette and throw it on the ground, you can cause an issue. And even though forest fires are good for some trees, it's not good for all of them. You go and burn down a forest that has trees that aren't good, and can't handle any regrowing from fire, those trees aren't going to grow back. It's going to destroy that environment, destroy those animals. So what we need to do is focus on those solutions and keep on going and keep on moving with the tree populations. Get them up and keep them right. Now, I love the forest, but I couldn't have known all this information by myself. So here are some of the people who helped me out. And thank you so much for tuning in to me talking about deforestation.
What are you doing over there?
Oh, I'm going to meet the Lorex for brunch. He makes a very, very nice apple pie.